It's back and hotter than ever. Wallpaper has made a comeback, and it is the coolest way to redesign a space that you can do in an afternoon, and it's not very expensive and it's not very difficult. I love the stuff. I always have. My childhood memories are about wallpapering. Believe it or not, I remember being 10 years old, climbing on scaffolding with my mother, papering a stairwell in our house. Was it safe? Hell no. But I remember being up there with her, and I remember the fun of matching the pattern and creating this beautiful look. And it was something that we bonded over. Now, 38 years later, I had the fun of removing said wallpaper from the walls when I sold her house after she passed. But wallpaper is the kind of thing that today's paper is so different that it's easier to apply and easier to remove. And the removal is the part that most people cringe over, because when your taste changed, you want to be able to pull it off and move on with a new style. And the peel and stick paper will give you just that option. So let's talk about some DIY tips and tricks for applying today's peel and stick options. I want you to subscribe, because that's what we do here at HipChicks. It's about giving you practical and doable DIY. I'm not going to teach you to do some goofy, wacky thing that's going to cost you $1,000. This is real practical things that you can do now to make your home the way you want it to be. So I will save you money, stress, and time when you click that button and subscribe. So let's talk about those tips. The first is pattern play. What do you want from your wallpaper project? You know, I went with something that was classic and blue. I picked it because I have blue countertops. I was papering my basement kitchen area. We have a little kitchenette downstairs. And I wanted to highlight the blue countertops because I was not replacing them. So if you have something that's kind of an eyesore that you don't love, find a way to make it work with everything around it, and it blends in better. So I picked this paper to match my countertops. Now, I also picked it because of the pattern, the medallion look, and it has a little bit of that toile-esque, style to it, classic blue and white. You can pick pops of color. You can pick something that's very subtle. You can pick things that are more just tone on tone for a subtle look. It all depends on the style that you want. So my best advice to help you find that style is to literally type into Google, blue and white wallpaper, and hit images. And when you do that, you'll see page after page of wallpapers in different rooms. Then you can start to narrow it down. Do you want navy? Do you want light blue? Do you want modern? Do you want classic? And all of these images will come up, giving you an idea of what these papers will look like on a full wall. The next step is the prep. And this really is the key to getting a good wallpaper project done. You want to make sure that your walls are clean. And when I say clean, I mean free of dust. You will literally take a damp rag and wipe the walls down from ceiling to floor. Make sure that you get the baseboard well, because when you bring down that piece to the edge of your baseboard, you don't want dust and dirt there and dog hair, so that you can't get good adhesion when you stick it into place. So cleaning is important. You also want to make sure that you have filled in any holes. So, if you have a tiny little nail hole, fine, you can wallpaper over it. But if you've had some significant damage from maybe heavy duty wall anchors, you want to make sure that you patch it first. Now, it's important that you prime over that spackle, because you want to make sure that the paper sticks. It's not going to stick well to that fresh spackle. It needs to be primed. But bear this in mind, that you cannot paper over fresh paint, so that you may have to do some prep about 2 weeks before you're ready to apply this if you have a lot of areas that need to be spackled and then primed. So read the directions on the package, and it will tell you what any specific requirements are to apply your product. Next up is the pattern repeat. That means how often on this said piece of paper do you see the pattern repeating itself? So on this one, it's 24 inches. So every 24 inches, this little spot on my paper repeats itself on the next section. The longer the repeat, the more waste. So the smaller the repeat, less waste. So that's important because if you are new at this, it might be challenging to have the bigger repeat. If you have a small pattern, you will have a less of a repeat, and it's often faster and less paper required. Now, for me, I didn't care. I loved the pattern. I went with it. So you want to check that in your specs when you're ordering wallpaper online, or if you're ordering out of a book or from a store, you want to ask, what is the pattern repeat? Because that will affect how many rolls you need to buy. So what are the tools that you need for your wallpaper project? Well, you're going to need a level and a plumb. It's imperative that your first strip be perfectly plumb so that everything stays even as you work. So the top of your wall might not be level, the baseboard may not be level, and that first edge of a wall might not be level. But you want to make sure that your first piece is by using a level or a plumb and creating a line so you know exactly how straight it is and that you don't end up with a crooked pattern. Next up are scissors. You need sharp scissors, not dull scissors from the drawer that everybody beats up, but you want to make sure you have really good scissors with a sharp tip. I actually like using cuticle scissors because you're able to make really tiny cuts accurately. A utility knife. So important. You have to have a really good utility knife with a fresh blade. You'll need a step stool and a tape measure so that you can plan out each section before you go to apply it, because you're not going to work off an entire roll. You're going to work off of an 8-foot section so that you can manage each piece as you go. The other thing that's really helpful is that keen eye. When you are doing pattern repeat that is kind of on a busier paper like this, you have to make sure that you hone in on what is the marker that you're going to use to match up as the pattern shifts on the wall. So I knew that I was looking at this little blue flower in the middle of my pattern, and then I'd go to the edge and look for this little gray burst. So you have to have a keen eye so that you can accurately match up this puzzle, and that's what it is. If your pattern doesn't match, it will look like an amateur hung it. Patience. You need a little bit of patience. The beautiful thing with the peel and stick is that you have the ability to peel it back off the wall and reposition it. It's more forgiving than the traditional paper that was truly papery, and it could easily tear if you tried to pull it and reposition. So this is an easier beginner wallpaper project and very DIY friendly. And certainly having a buddy around helps. There are some spots where it's a little tricky and you gotta bend and twist like I did underneath my cabinets here, but I had a buddy that was passing me tools so I could get it done easier. Now, I still have some custom shelving to do in my kitchenette area, so make sure you subscribe because the full basement renovation tour is coming, and you will see not only what I did with the walls, but you know, the cool shelving that I'm adding and the unique spaces that I've created in the basement since we had our water damage last year. And for more, again, practical and doable DIY tips, make sure you head over to this link. I have a free caulking class. Caulking is huge. Everybody needs to know how to caulk, and so many homeowners don't. So sign up for my free caulking class, and when you do that, you will hear about my next live caulking demo.